This week I'm reading the entire Grandest Games series and I am so excited, and I feel like this video will probably come out at the perfect time because I'm pretty sure there's another book coming out in this series, or it might be another spin-off book because I believe the first 3 books are technically like the original series, and then I think these 2 books are technically spin-off books. I'm not entirely sure. We're gonna find out together, and this entire video will be spoiler free, so you don't need to worry about any of that. But all I know about these books before going into them is that it's about a girl who inherits an insane amount of money, but the kicker is she has never met the man that has left her billions and billions of dollars. And of course his whole family is very mad and they're all like, who is this girl? And I think they have to do some type of tasks to be able to get their part of the inheritance, but I could be wrong because that's just coming from my brain, just from memory, simply from hearing other people talk about these books. I've never read the back of these books, so that could be very wrong. And you know what, that's okay because we are about to go find out together what these books are about. And I am so excited because I have read other books from Lynn before. I think it was last year that I read the entire The Natural series and I really liked that series, so I am so excited. So let's just get into it. I just made it to chapter 14 and wow, this book is so good. I'm already kind of obsessed and very invested, even though every time they skirt around using a curse word, I'm reminded at how YA this book is. But that isn't even bothering me as much as I thought it would. I'm just too invested in the story for that to bother me. I'm already at the point where I'm like, how do I get everyone to read this book and then talk to me about it? Which is kind of dangerous because I've barely scratched the surface in this book. So like, I need to calm down. Also, what I thought that this book was about isn't exactly what the book is about. It's basically, we have Avery, who is our main character, and she is the one that is getting this inheritance, but there's a catch to her inheritance, and the catch is that she has to stay at the Hawthorne house to be able to get her inheritance. And of course the rest of the family is living at this giant mansion and they don't really like her, obviously, because in their minds they're like, oh, she stole this money from us. And then the little flap on the inside of the book also says that there's riddles and puzzles that need to be solved. It says, caught in a world of wealth and privilege with danger around every turn, Avery will have to play the game herself just to survive in this twisty, thrilling new mystery. So there's definitely some type of mystery slash riddle situation involved, which I'm excited to see how that plays out because I don't think I've ever experienced like riddles in a book before. So I'm excited to see how Miss Jennifer Lynn Barnes manages to do that. But I do have high hopes for her because, like I said, I've read her books before and I did really enjoy them. So I just made it to chapter 35 and I think if I could, I would literally sit down and finish this entire book today. Maybe we will. That would be so slay. So I'm definitely still enjoying it, although I kind of feel like more should be happening at this point. But I am giving it a little bit of a break because it is the first book in a series. So I'm sure we're still setting things up, learning about the characters. But if things don't pick up soon, we're gonna have issues on our hands. Oh, I just realized I've been holding up this book without the dust jacket on it. I forgot to put it back on before I updated because let me tell you, I'm taking this dust jacket off before I'm reading the book. But anyway, I'm actually gonna go to the mall and then I'm gonna go back to reading. Just made it to chapter 67. I keep wanting to hold this book up without the jacket. Anyway, I have a couple things I want to say. Chapter 67, so I feel like it's been a while since I updated. I don't really know. Pretty far into the book, and I do feel like things have picked up a little bit, but it's still kind of a bit of a mystery. Like, nothing has really started to wrap together yet. And I am still enjoying the book, but I will say I feel like I was enjoying the book a little bit more in the first half than I am right now. I don't fully know why. Maybe I need to take a break because I've been reading for a while. I don't know. I'm really unsure, but I am still definitely enjoying it. There are parts in the book where I'm like getting reminded that it's a YA book, so I kind of wish I was younger when I read these books. But I remember saying something in the very beginning of this video that there was another book coming out, I think in November. Well, I was at Barnes & Noble earlier and that kind of sent me down a little bit of a rabbit hole. And I actually found this recommended reading order online when I was in Barnes & Noble, and they recommend reading like the original Inheritance Games trilogy, and then there's the bridge novel, which I actually do own that. It's the Brothers Hawthorne. And then they actually recommend reading The Grandest Games before Games Untold. So I was going to go ahead and buy Grandest Games, and I was like, you know what, might as well just include it in this video. Add an extra book, right? They didn't have it in the store, which sucked. But I ended up getting it off of Libby anyway, which I prefer. Unless I end up really loving this whole series, then I will of course buy it. But I did actually buy Glorious Rivals, which is the book they say to read after Games Untold. And honestly, I just bought that one because online my library was saying the wait would be 14 weeks. And I was like, I'm not waiting 14 weeks. I'm sorry. I want to read these now and I want to read them all back to back. So that's the current reading order that's out right now. But anyway, that's like my major update because this video has kind of gone from just the Inheritance games to now the Inheritance games and the Grandest Games, which is exciting. We're gonna read the entire The Inheritance Games saga per se. So that is exciting, and I'm glad I went to Barnes & Noble today because I was actually on the fence about even going, but that is what brought me to discovering this reading order, so I'm glad I went. I'm gonna go cozy up with this book. I might throw on a little comfy movie. I might eat some dinner. I don't know. It's a Saturday and I'm like, I feel like I should do something fun, but reading is my fun. So here we are. I just made it to chapter 87, so I'm very close to the end of the book, and something just kind of unveiled to us that it wasn't fully shocking, but at the same time I was shocked, which is kind of hard to describe without telling you what happened, so I'm not going to tell you. But basically I guessed like half of what was going on, but like not really, because that was just like a tiny little thing that got unveiled. But since I'm so close to finishing this book, like so close, I'm expecting a lot more to become unveiled at this point. Not that the book has been slow by any means so far, but I feel like with a book structured like this, it's a little hard because obviously they are trying to find these clues and they're kind of figuring things out along with us. So it is hard to like we're all just trying to figure things out, you know what I mean? And I feel like if this book was longer, it would be boring, but because it is pretty short, I think it's less than 300 pages. Oh, it's not, 376. But it doesn't feel super long, and like the way that it's structured I feel like helps a lot as well, like the short chapters, and it's just easy to read. So I feel like that helps with the fact that it's kind of not slower. I don't know how else to describe it though. It's just like a mystery, you know? It's not a thriller. I'm used to reading thrillers, so I'm like, yes, it's slower compared to a thriller. Okay, I'm getting down into a rabbit hole right now. Basically, I just wanted to say that I'm really hoping I can finish this book tonight because I'm so close to finishing it, and I feel like things are hopefully going to kind of hit the wall here, and I'm just very excited to see how the book ends. So I'm hoping I can stay up and finish this book, but I am getting pretty sleepy, so fingers crossed the next time you see me it'll be tomorrow morning and I will be saying that I finished the Inheritance games last night. I did in fact finish the Inheritance games last night, and I think I'm gonna rate this book a 4-star mostly because of the way it ended. The ending was so good. I wish I was filming my reaction because literally jaw was on the floor. I didn't guess that ending at all, and of course because of the way this book ended, I immediately started the Hawthorne Legacy, which is the next book. And I was also thinking to myself, I would have hated to read this book as soon as it came out because it left us pretty much on a cliffhanger, which is why I immediately went to this book, and I would have hated having to wait at least a year for the next book to come out. Well, I guess hate is kind of a dramatic word, but that's why I love reading these kind of series just back to back like this. But anyway, I did start the Hawthorne Legacy last night. I'm literally only 8 pages into it. I was very much fighting sleep last night, and the only reason I finished the Inheritance games before falling asleep was because I was just so into the ending of this book, which I definitely think the ending of the book is the reason why it's a 4-star for me. I feel like if this ended a different way, it would have been like a 3 or 3.5 or something like that. So very much enjoyed the ending of this one, and I'm very excited to see where the story goes in this book. But I will say I'm having a hard time distinguishing the 4 brothers between each other, and it's like I know the characteristics of each brother, particularly the oldest brother and the youngest brother, because they are very different from each other. I just don't know their names. Like I'm having a hard time attaching their names to their personalities, which is kind of weird. But I will say that is a common problem for me. I just get characters confused. So hopefully this book will kind of ease that problem for me a little bit, especially because I feel like as I get to know all of the brothers, I'm going to confuse them less and less. So I'm gonna go read for a little bit. I'm very excited to continue this whole series. Just made it to chapter 30, and I think I like this book better than the first one, at least so far. And I was honestly hoping that would happen because the first half of the Inheritance games felt a little slow to me. And I definitely assumed that that was because because it was the first book in the series and we were just setting everything up. So I'm very happy that this book is off to a running start. I'm also enjoying the mystery in this one more, and I feel like the first book set this book up perfectly for success because it perfectly set this book up so that we don't have that slower intro period. I just made it to chapter 81, so I'm almost done with this book. And while there's parts of this book that are slower, I wouldn't call it slow, but I think I also need to remind myself that this book is YA, which in essence makes it a little bit less crazier than if this book was an adult book. There's one thing that bothers me though, and it's that lines keep getting repeated throughout the book, and it's always either to emphasize something or because the main character Avery is thinking and like reflecting back on maybe something that she either thought of before or that's something like someone had said to her previously. So while I find the repetition pretty annoying because it happens so frequently, I feel like it is still important to the story, and I just wish it wasn't there as often as it is. And since I'm so close to finishing this book, we have started to get answers, but I definitely feel like this book is going to end on a cliffhanger, kind of like how the first book ended. Finished the Hawthorne Legacy, and I have to say I'm not a big fan of how it ended. Oh, hello! I feel like we didn't really get any conclusive answers in this book. Well, I guess conclusive answers that I wanted, but I am interested to see how the story progresses in the next book because the next book is technically the end of the original Inheritance Games trilogy. I think I would give this one either a 3.5 or a 4-star. I'm gonna have to give my final ratings at the end of the video, which I know is kind of annoying, but I need to think about my ratings a little bit more before I give my final rating. But I did actually start the next book, which is the final Gambit, and I'm already on chapter 12, so I'm not very far into it, but this one already has a very different tone than the rest of the books did. And I find it interesting that virtually no time passed between the first book and the second book, but between this book and this book there's been 9 months, so we had like a tiny bit of a time jump, and I don't know how I feel about that, but there's a lot of different ways the story could go right now, and I'm excited to see where the story goes. I just made it to chapter 31, and I find this book like I was trying to say, I just made it to chapter 31, and I find this book pretty interesting because, oh, I keep feeling like I need to sneeze. Sorry, wow, this update is not off to a good start. My nose just randomly got so congested. Anyway, I'm trying to say this book is the most different of all the books so far, which I find interesting because I feel like we're focusing on the characters a lot instead of the mystery, but I'm also really appreciating that we're kind of deviating a little bit since the first 2 books were so similar in my opinion, and I read those both back to back. I feel like I really needed a change of pace, so I'm really appreciating that this book is different in that sense. It is definitely what I needed. This book is flying by. I'm already on chapter 65, but I'm kind of confused if everything is going to wrap up in this book or not because I thought that this was originally a trilogy, and so if it was just a trilogy then everything would get wrapped up in this book, right? But now I'm questioning if maybe it was originally 4 books and then just kind of expanded. Sorry, I was trying to fix my hair, but it looks like a disaster still. But I just looked and it looks like I was right. It was originally a trilogy, and then the next book I'm going to read is technically a bridge novel with Grayson and Jameson's point of view. So that should be fun because we haven't gotten their point of view at all. I have finished the final Gambit and I actually really liked it. I liked how the book ended. It felt very true to her character, but at the same time it wasn't anything that I expected. And I feel like this ending is going to link us perfectly to the Grandest Games trilogy. And I'm excited to see how the next book bridges this all together since this is technically a bridge book, which I don't know if I've ever read a book that is like outwardly marketed as a good bridge book. I don't know. This is new to me, I feel. But I did actually read the first chapter of the Brothers Hawthorne, and I'm very excited for the change of pace in this one since I'm expecting it to be a little bit more of a character study. I definitely think that there's still going to be those mysterious elements in it, but I just feel like compared to the rest of the series, we're going to take more of a deeper dive into the brothers in this one. I also think it'll be nice to get a different point of view, and I'm wondering if we're going to get the point of view of the brothers during what happened in the original trilogy, if we're going to learn about their childhood, or if it's going to be something entirely different. I have no no idea. We're gonna find out. Also, talking about the brothers kind of reminds me about earlier when I first started doing this whole reading vlog and I was saying how I was getting a bunch of the brothers confused. I'm not having that problem at all anymore. That has 100% fixed itself, and I also feel like that was really quickly fixed once the characters had some more development and we've really got to know them. So very happy that that fixed itself. I've made it to chapter 49, so I'm basically halfway through this book and I'm actually really liking it. I think I might have had lower expectations because I feel like most people don't like the books outside of the original trilogy as much as they like the books in the original trilogy, but I could be wrong. I also think I'm mostly enjoying the change in pace in this book. I felt like the books in the trilogy were all pretty similar, especially because I was reading them back to back. I don't know if I would have noticed how similar they were if I wasn't reading them back to back. Also, this book is making me realize that I don't feel like Avery is as fleshed out as a character as the brothers are. Like, she just feels a little bit 2D to me, but I'm really liking the story in this one, and I'm liking that we're kind of following two different plot lines, and the entire structure of the book I just really enjoy. It honestly feels like a breath of fresh air, and it has me questioning if I should have read all of these books back to back like this, but I love doing this with series, so I don't regret it. I feel like this camera angle and lighting is kind of weird, but my camera is charging, so I need the camera to stay near the outlet if I want to talk, and I want to talk. It's been a while, so I have an update. I'm at chapter 80, so I'm actually almost done with this book at this point, and the ending of this book is so good. It is exactly what I needed from this book. I feel like most of the books in the series have been kind of on the slower side until this book, and I think that's mostly because of the way this book is structured, because both brothers have this mystery, this thing going on that they're trying to figure out, and we're following both brothers, and the setup of this book is actually reminding me of doing the tandem read in Throne of Glass, because these things are taking place at the same time, which I'm assuming that's why it's in one book rather than two. I also feel like I would not like it as much if this book was two books rather than one. It would just be way too slow in my opinion. Like, the pacing of this book is just perfect to me. I normally like a faster paced book, and like I said, this book is faster than the rest of the books have been in the series, and because of that I feel like so far this is my favorite book that I've read in this video. This might sound a little crazy, but I actually like that this book is almost making me stress because of everything that's going on in the pacing. I kind of like that feeling. It's like a feeling I get when I'm reading a thriller rather than when I'm reading a mystery, so I'm really enjoying it. We need to talk. I have finished The Brothers Hawthorne. There's parts of the way that this book ended that I really like, and then there's a part that I'm like, why did she do that? Like, what? Like, and I don't know, but I feel like the good outweighs the bad in this book, in the sense that the good parts of the ending, they far outweigh what I didn't like about the ending. Obviously I can't say anything more than that or it'll spoil it, but I did actually really like this book, and it's making me question my ratings for the rest of the series, because I feel like in my gut this feels like a 4-star, and I feel like that means the rest of the books were definitely not a 4-star. I feel like they were like maybe a 3.5-star, because I definitely liked this one the best out of all of them so far. I actually really liked this one. Maybe this is a 4.5-star. I don't know. I'm getting so conflicted on all my ratings in this video. I don't know why. Just all of a sudden I'm like, I forgot how to rate a book. Like, what is my rating system? I don't know anymore. I don't know. So I'm toggling between a 4 and a 4.5 for this one. I will of course let you know at the end of the video when I decide to rate all of these books. I've probably said that way too many times at this point, but to follow the recommended reading order, I have just started the Grandest Games. I am on chapter 8, so what is that? I'm 11% of the way through this book. This is the only book I don't own physically because I was gonna buy it. I think I said this earlier in the video. I don't need to repeat myself, but I'm actually very glad I didn't buy it because it was available on Libby, and I would rather use the library than buy the book. I actually am enjoying this one. We're getting a bunch of different point of views, and this is actually technically the start of the Grandest Games series. So I've technically moved on to a different series, but I will circle back to the Inheritance Games series when I read Games Untold. Listen, I don't know why authors do this. Like, I feel like you should just make it one series, you know? Like, I don't know, I just feel like that would be easier, even though I understand like why it's two different series. Like, it is different. I understand that. My iPad is so bright. I feel like I look crazy. Anyway, that just distracted me. I think I was basically just trying to say that this book so far seems really interesting. I would definitely say you need to read the Inheritance Games before this one, even though I'm like only 11% of the way through it, but I'm really liking that we're getting different point of views. It does make it feel a little bit more fresh and different than the rest of the books have felt because we're getting different point of views. And it's interesting to me because this book that I'm currently reading, The Grandest Games, and The Brothers Hawthorne, Avery has been like nowhere to be found. And like in my brain, I'm like, oh, like she's an actress and they couldn't get her back to the set. And I'm thinking that because I'm seeing these books like as movies in my head. You know what I mean? Like some books are just so good with like the imagery that I can just like see it so clearly in my head that I literally had that thought just now that we don't see Avery's character as much anymore because the actor is like hard to nail down. Yeah, it's a book. It's a book. There's no actors in this. Anyways, I'm going to get back to reading. I am really enjoying the kind of turn that we have taken. I feel like the Inheritance games were all very similar. And so I am honestly a little bit nervous that the Grandest Games is going to do the same thing. I'm worried it's going to be a little bit similar to this book, which I really don't want it to be. So we will see. I just made it to chapter 34, which is 40% of the way through this book, and I'm actually really enjoying it. And I think that's again similar to the Brothers Hawthorne, where I'm really liking the structure of this book, and I'm really liking that we are getting multiple point of views and we're kind of switching between the point of views, and I really like that. I feel like when we switch perspectives like that, it feels like there's more going on, and it feels like I'm just more into the story when I get more point of views, especially because the point of views in this book aren't like one person saying, oh, this happened, and it's like shown from their point of view, and then the same thing happens shown from someone else's point of view. Like it's not like that. Like it's constantly something new is being shown and something new is happening, and I really appreciate that. I feel like maybe that was something that I was missing a lot in the Inheritance Games original trilogy, and I just didn't realize until I picked up these books. So I kind of feel like right now I might be enjoying these books a little bit more than I was the Inheritance Games, which is weird because I feel like most people think like the other around. So I feel like I'm the odd one out here, but I don't know. I could be wrong. I haven't seen reviews for these books in a really long time. I feel like people have probably kind of just moved on from this series, but I have not because I'm just now reading them, but I am quite enjoying it. You will probably see me again today because it is a rainy, gloomy day outside, so I'm probably just gonna sit inside all day and read, which my ideal rainy weekend is sitting inside and reading, so I'm not mad about that at all. It has been an entire week since I last updated. I've taken a bit of a break from these books. They were starting to really frustrate me because they were just all way too similar in my opinion, especially because I was reading them back to back. But I've said it before, so you guys already know, I do really enjoy reading an entire series back to back like this, and I feel like I should be able to do that without feeling like the books are getting way too repetitive, because I feel like all the books should be different enough to where I'm not getting that feeling. And it's upsetting because I enjoyed the Natural series so much, so I thought that I would really enjoy this series as well, especially because I feel like this series is more popular than the Natural series is. But these books could have fallen a bit flat for me because of that comparison, and because I knew I already liked the Natural series, so I kind of had a little bit of higher expectations. With the Natural series, that was obviously my first time reading Jennifer Lynn Barnes, so I didn't have any expectations at all. And I feel like it sounds like I think that these books are bad. They are not bad by any means. They're just not on the same level for me as the Natural series was. Like the books in the Natural series, I was rating them 4 or 5 stars. These books, I feel like they're mostly getting 3 and 4 stars. So they're still good. They're just not on that same level. But last time I spoke to you, I was still reading The Grandest Games, and I ended up pretty much finishing that book in like 2 days. I think I said last time I talked that I was planning to just spend the rest of the day reading, and that's exactly what I did. So I ended up finishing that book literally a week ago from today. So I've been able to sit on my thoughts a little bit, and I'm definitely giving that book a 3 star, mostly because by the end of the book I was just so over it that the only way I was able to finish it was by listening to the audiobook. Again, it was just too similar to the rest of the series in my opinion, and I really didn't like the ending. It wasn't as concrete as I wanted it to be, and it kind of makes sense because it is part of a series, and I am going to read the next book in that series pretty soon, but I feel like the ending just didn't give me enough, and I kind of feel like the book was dragged out to become a series when it could have been just one extra book. But I mean, maybe she has a lot more planned for that story, and we'll at least see with the next book. I think there's one more book coming out and then the series might be over, or there's 2 more books coming out, I think, maybe, I don't know. But I actually have been listening to Games Untold. I have the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, and I love the pink on this. But if you don't know anything about this book, this is actually a collection of novellas, and I didn't realize that when I picked this book up. I'm honestly not sure I would have picked this book up if I knew that when I bought it, because it just says an Inheritance Inheritance Games collection. It doesn't say like Inheritance Games novellas or something like that. So I don't know, maybe that was part of the marketing. Maybe they did that on purpose. But I have actually already read the first novella in this book. I don't know how many novellas are in here. I didn't even look to see if it says how many are in here. I don't think it does. Oh, it does. Huh. Well, I've been listening to it, so I just didn't realize that. But anyways, I did read the first novella in here and I really didn't like it at all. Again, with the repetitiveness, I was just feeling so like over it, honestly, at that point. And I haven't been listening to this very often at all. That's why I'm not super far into it. I am 36% of the way into this book, but thankfully the second story in this collection came in clutch. It is so different than the rest of the series so far. And we're following a character that we don't really hear much about in the original trilogy. I mean, we definitely hear about the character a good amount, but we're never really in their perspectives. And I do feel like that is something that was missing from the other books. We didn't get any other perspectives, so it is nice to get different perspectives in this book, but I kind of feel like it would have been cool to have this book kind of combined with the other books so that we get those different perspectives and it feels a little bit fresh, doesn't feel so repetitive. But that's why I am liking the second novella so much. It feels fresh and it's actually a story that I'm really liking, and I'm glad that we got to hear this story, and it's a bit more romance heavy than the rest of the books have been. At least just the second story is. Well, I guess the first one had a good bit of romance as well, but I am really enjoying the second story. So things are looking up from here. I think I definitely needed my week-ish break. I mean, I didn't take like a concrete break because I've been listening to this one, but I've really just been listening to it while I drive. Like, I'm not really sitting down listening to it a ton, and I haven't picked up the book physically at all yet. But anyway, I just talked for so long. I'm going to go back to diving into this series now that I've taken my little break. I'm about to crawl right into bed with my book, but I wanted to give an update first because it's been a couple of days and I have actually finished Games Untold. And I'm actually gonna rate this a 4-star, which I feel like is higher than the books have been so far. I mostly just really enjoyed the second novella in this story, and I also just enjoyed how fresh they felt. So I feel like they're necessarily important to the story as of right now. No, maybe something that happens in this book will end up being important later in the future in the series. I don't know. As of right now, I wouldn't say that anything that happens in this book is super pertinent to the rest of the story. It's just kind of fun short stories and kind of a different look at the characters. So I did really enjoy this one. I think I also just had lower expectations for that one because it is short stories and I don't normally read books like that, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. And then I started Glorious Rivals, which I'm obsessed that this matches my nails. Like, obsessed, okay? But I'm actually further into this book than I realized. I'm on page 170, which if I had to guess, I would say that that's about a third of the way through, maybe a little bit more. And I am enjoying this one. I do like that this like spin-off series, I like that they are more romance heavy, and I didn't even realize that that's literally part of the branding. Like at the bottom it says love is a dangerous game, and I am enjoying that, especially because the brother that has the romance in this book, he's one of my favorite brothers actually. It's weird because I feel like I only really have one brother that I don't love, and that would be Jamison. And I feel like that's interesting because I feel like we see him so much more in the Inheritance Games series than we do any of the other brothers, but I do feel like the other brothers come in more as the series goes on. But I've kind of grown attached to the other brothers, so I'm enjoying this one. I really like that there's multiple point of views. I feel like that kind of helps keep the story a little bit less repetitive in my opinion. But I'm gonna go cozy up in bed with this book and read until my eyes start to shut, aka until I fall asleep. Let's chat about the entire Inheritance Games world. We'll actually start with Glorious Rivals because this is the last book that I was talking about in this video, and I actually finished this one yesterday, and I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5 star. I was actually thinking about giving it a 4-star because I did really enjoy it. I really liked the romance aspect in this book, and I actually really like how the book ended because I genuinely was thinking about not reading the next book, and I might just see if my library has the next one once it comes out, of course. But the way this book ended definitely made me want to pick up the next one, which I feel like it's perfect. Like, I feel like that's what a series is supposed to do. But I really liked how this book was set up. I really liked that we were focusing a lot more on the romance in this one than we have have in previous books. But I realized I think a big problem that I'm having with this entire series, with this entire world, is that I'm not connected to it. And I think that that's partly because I'm not super connected to any of the characters either. And while I do really enjoy the story, I just feel like with a series this long, like there's literally 7 books out right now, and I think there's scheduled to be 2 more coming out. I feel like at this point I should be really attached to the characters, and I'm just not. And I think that's holding me back a lot from having a super amazing 5-star reading experience with these books. So I think it's gonna be a 3.5 star. Now let's talk about the rest of the books. I feel like I had a very similar experience with the rest of the books in the sense that I wasn't super connected to it, and I actually feel like that almost made the books a little bit forgettable. And I hate saying that because I do like remember what happened in these books, but I kind of have to like make myself think back on it, rather than if it's a book that I really enjoyed, I'll just randomly start thinking about it like throughout the day. But these books unfortunately were not on that tier for me, and I really wanted them to be. I ended up giving the Inheritance Games a 3.5 star, mostly because I felt like the beginning of this book was just a little bit too slow. And then I gave the Hawthorne Legacy a 3.5 star, and I gave the final Gambit and the Brothers Hawthorne both 4 stars. I think I liked this one just a little bit more because, like I said before, the end of this one just started to feel way too repetitive to me, and this one kind of felt like a new fresh take because we were following the brothers, which we hadn't gotten that point of view in any of the books before this one. And then I read The Grandest Games, and I really didn't like how that one ended, and I feel like this is the point where I was starting to get a little like burnt out just because all the books were so similar in my opinion. And then I do feel like things turned around when I read Games Untold, because I ended up giving this one a 4 star. It just felt a little bit more fresh to me. I had my break in between reading The Grandest Games and this one, so I did actually really enjoy this one, but I'm not sure that it's 100% necessary. Although I will say there are a couple things that you learn in this one that they talk about in this book, but I feel like you could kind of pick up on those things if you felt like skipping this one. But I did really enjoy this one. And then again, this one was a 3.5 star. So I will probably read the next 2 books that come out. I just probably won't go out and buy them. I probably won't rush to read them, but I did overall enjoy this series. It just was not my new favorite series. It wasn't my new favorite from Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I still really like the Natural series by her, and I think that is so far my favorite series that I've read from her. But I still liked these ones. They just weren't on that same level for me. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!